प्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna and welcome to the discussion today. So we'll be discussing from chapter 18 verse number 72. I'll say the verse, you all can follow along. Kachideta shrutam partha
Kachideta shrutam partha
tvaya kagrena chetasa
Vaye kagrena chetasa
kachit agyana sammoha
Kachit adhyana sammoha
pranastaste dhanam jaya
Pranasteta dhananjana
Kachideta shrutam partha
Kachideta shrutam partha
tvaya kagrena chetasa
Vaye kagrena chetasa
kachit agyana sammoha
Kachit adhyana sammoha
pranastaste dhananjaya
Pranastaste dhananjaya
Kachideta shrutam partha
Kachideta shrutam partha
tvaya kagrena chetasa
Vaye kagrena chetasa
kachit agyana sammoha
Kachit adhyana sammoha
pranastaste dhananjaya.
Pranastaste dhananjaya.
What's the title chant?
कचितेतच्छ्रुतं पार्थ
Kachideta shrutam partha
तव्यैकाग्रेण चेतसा
Tvayekagrena chetasa
कच्चित् अज्ञानसम्मोहः
Kachit
Kachitagyana
adhyana
sammoha
sammoha
प्रणस्तस्ते धनञ्जय
pranastaste dhananjaya.
Pranashtaste dhananjaya. Kachid etat shrutam partha
Kachidetachrutam partha
Vayekagrena chetasa
tvayekagrena chetasa
Kachit adhyana sammoha
Kachitagyana sammoha
Pranashtaste dhananjaya.
pranastaste dhananjaya.
कश्चिदेत श्रुतं पार्थ
Kachideta
Kachidetachrutam
shrutam
partha
partha
त्ववैकाग्रेण चेतसा
tvayekagrena
Tvayekagrena
chetasa
chetasa
कश्चित् अज्ञानसम्मोहः
Kachit
Kachitagyana
adhyana
sammoha
sammoha
प्रणतास्ते धनञ्जय
pranastaste
Pranashtaste
dhananjaya.
dhananjaya.
कच्चितम् एतत् श्रुतं पार्थ तया
Kachideta
Kachidetachrutam
shrutam
partha
partha
एकाग्रणे चेतसा
tvayekagrena
Tvayekagrena
chetasa
chetasa
जित अज्ञानसम्मोह
Kachid
Kachitagyana
adhyana
sammoha
sammoha
प्रणष्टते धनञ्जय
pranastaste
Pranashtaste
dhananjaya.
dhananjaya.
Word by word meaning. Kachit,
Kachit whether
etat,
etat
this,
this
shrutam,
shrutam
heard,
heard
partha,
partha
O son of Pritha,
O son of Pritha
tvaya,
Vaya
by you,
by you
eka agrena,
Ekagrena
with full attention,
with full attention
chetasa,
Chetasa
by the mind,
by the mind
kachit,
Kachit
whether,
whether
agyan,
Ajnana
of ignorance,
of ignorance
sammoha,
Sammoha
the illusion,
the illusion
pranastha,
Pranasta
dispelled,
dispelled
te,
Te
of you,
of
dhanamjaya,
Dhananjaya,
O conqueror of wealth, Arjun.
O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. O son of Pritha, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind? And are you ignorant? And are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled? I'll repeat the translation once again. O son of Pritha, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind? And are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord was acting as the spiritual master of Arjun. Therefore, it was his duty to inquire from Arjun whether he understood the whole Bhagavad Gita in its proper perspective. If not, the Lord was ready to re-explain any point or the whole Bhagavad Gita if so required. Actually, anyone who hears Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide spiritual master like Krishna or his representative will find that all his ignorance is dispelled. Bhagavad Gita is not an ordinary book written by a poet or fiction writer. It is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Any person fortunate enough to hear these teachings from Krishna or from his bona fide spiritual representative is sure to become a liberated person and get out of the darkness of ignorance. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschadeshtarine. So here in this verse, Krishna is essentially, now that he has spoken, he has been speaking since so long, right? And he has been trying to convince Arjuna, trying to tell him, talk him about the absolute reality, right? It all started with, as we know, Krishna, there was a battle going on, right? And in the middle of the battleground, when Arjun sees his opponents and all of them are related to him, he just lost all the enthusiasm to fight, right? And he did not want to fight. And at that point, Krishna essentially gave him or tried to inspire him by putting sense into him, and he gave Bhagavad Gita at that time, right? So here, after he has been speaking since so long, Krishna finally checks. So now that I have talked so much, have you been listening with an attentive mind, right? And in a way, this is also one of the prerequisites for us to understand Bhagavad Gita, right? Just like anything, even material, right? For us to be able to grasp a subject matter, there are two ways, right? One is we simply engage our ears into it, but the mind is wandering somewhere else. So although the words are going into our ears, but we are not able to sort of put our mind behind it, right? And if the mind is not engaged behind the knowledge of the sound vibrations that are received by the ears, there isn't really a point of listening, right? So to have an attentive mind is very, very important, right? The senses, they do a very important function of bringing the information, but for that information to be actually absorbed, our mind has to be focused, and it needs to be attentive. And that is why Krishna is checking with him, because if he did not hear with an attentive mind, there is no question of the ignorance and illusions being dispelled, right? But if Krishna was listening attentively, then the natural outcome of it, because it is Krishna who is actually speaking the absolute truth, the natural outcome of anyone listening Bhagavad Gita with an attentive mind is that, and of course, as Prabhupada is mentioning here, right, from a bona fide source, either from Krishna directly as Arjun did, and his bona fide representatives, right, who are coming in a disciplic succession, right? So if Bhagavad Gita is received in the disciplic succession from a bona fide spiritual master, and if the receiver receives it with an attentive mind, with his full attention, then the natural outcome is the ignorance and the illusions will be entirely dispelled. That is the natural outcome of it. So that is why, Prabhupada here is stressing this fact that how one should hear Bhagavad Gita. And as a true spiritual master, because Krishna here is acting as the spiritual master of Arjun, right? This is also quality of a true bona fide spiritual master. He would always ensure that the mercy or the directions or the teachings that a bona fide spiritual master provides to his disciples, he would always check whether the disciple heard it or whether he received it accurately or not. Just like we are in a school and we are in a classroom and the teacher is teaching us, they would always ensure, a good teacher would always ensure that whatever the teacher taught, whether the student was able to understand it or not. And if not, then of course, pariprashnena sevaya, right? Ubdekshanti te jnanam jnanina tatu darshina. So the process of attaining knowledge is by asking questions. If something is not clear, then the disciple should always inquire in a submissive way, not in a challenging mood, of course, right? Because in verse number 67, 1867, Krishna already mentioned that what are the qualifications of accepting Bhagavad Gita. And he mentioned that anyone who is envious of him, anyone who is envious of Krishna, Bhagavad Gita is not meant for him, right? So if one is envious of Krishna, he would of course be in a challenging mood, right? Although he may be hearing Bhagavad Gita, but he will be asking questions just for the sake of challenging. So Bhagavad Gita should not be taught to such people. Krishna already tells that to us. But Arjun, as we know, he's hearing or listening very submissively by accepting Krishna as his spiritual master. And therefore, Krishna is asking him, just confirming that whether he heard everything attentively or not. And if he did hear, then the natural outcome of his ignorance and illusions being dispelled, they should be there, right? So we should therefore be very careful of, and this goes for any kind of spiritual understanding, right? Anything that we read or we listen, or the instructions that we receive from our spiritual master or from devotees about the spiritual subject matter in particular, right? We should make sure that we take it with an attentive mind, because only then the expected outcome of dispelling the ignorance and the illusion will result, right? So that's what he's saying here. Now let's move on to the next verse, because next verse gives us insight into what Arjuna responded to this question from Krishna. So I'll read the verse, number 73. Arjuna uvacha nashtu moha smritir labdha. You all can repeat after me. Nashtu moha smritir labdha
Moha smritirlabdha
tvat prasadan maya chuta
Tvaprasadan maya chuta
sthitosmi gata sandeha
Shitosmi gata sandeha
karishye vachanam tava.
Karishye vachanam tava.
Arjuna uvacha
Arjuna vacha
nashtu moha smritir labdha
Nashtu moha smritirlabdha
tvat prasadan maya chuta
Tvaprasadan maya chuta
sthitosmi gata sandeha
Sthitosmi gata sandeha
karishye vachanam tava.
Karishye vachanam tava.
Arjuna uvacha
Arjuna vacha
nashtu moha smritir labdha
Nashtu moha smritirlabdha
tvat prasadan maya chuta
Tvaprasadan maya chuta
sthitosmi gata sandeha
Sthitosmi gata sandeha
karishye vachanam tava.
Karishye vachanam tava.
Synonyms: Arjuna uvacha,
Arjuna vacha
Arjun said,
Arjuna said
nashta,
Nashta
dispelled,
dispelled
moha,
Moha
illusion,
illusion
smriti,
Smriti
memory,
memory
labdha,
Labdha
regained,
regained
tvat prasadat,
Tvat prasadan
by your mercy,
by your mercy
maya,
Maya
by me,
by me
achyut,
Achyuta,
O infallible Krishna,
O infallible Krishna,
Sthita,
Ita,
situated,
situated,
Asmi,
Asmi,
I am,
I am,
Gata,
Gata,
removed,
remove,
Sandeha,
Sandeha,
all doubts,
all doubts,
Karishye,
Karishye,
I shall execute,
I shall execute,
Vachanam,
Vachanam,
order,
order,
Tava,
Tava,
your.
your.
Translation. Arjuna said, My dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt and am prepared to act according to your instructions. Translation once again. Arjun said, My dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt and am prepared to act according to your instructions. And Prabhupada has given a really nice purport here. It's one of the concluding verses, right? So Prabhupada also is kind of giving us a summary of the most important aspects of Bhagavad Gita. The constitutional position of a living entity represented by Arjun is that he has to act according to the order of the Supreme Lord. He is meant for self-discipline. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that the actual position of the living entity is that of eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. Forgetting this principle, the living entity becomes conditioned by material nature. But in serving the Supreme Lord, he becomes the liberated servant of God. The living entity's constitutional position is to be a servitor. He has to serve either the illusory Maya or the Supreme Lord. If he serves the Supreme Lord, he is in his normal condition. But if he prefers to serve the illusory external energy, then certainly he will be in bondage. In illusion, the living entity is serving in this material world. He is bound by his lust and desires, yet he thinks of himself as the master of the world. This is called illusion. When a person is liberated, his illusion is over and he voluntarily surrenders unto the Supreme to act according to his desires. The last illusion, the last snare of Maya to trap the living entity is the proposition that he is God. The living entity thinks that he is no longer a conditioned soul, but God. He is so unintelligent that he does not think that if he were God, then how could he be in doubt? That he does not consider. So that is the last snare of illusion. Actually, to become free from the illusory energy is to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and agree to act according to his order. Okay, so here, Prabhupada is stressing this fact that our constitutional position is to serve, right? And the constitutional position is to serve Krishna. That is the original position. But out of our foolishness, we are serving Maya, or the external energy of Krishna, the illusory energy of Krishna, which is also called Maya, right? And the process to remove this illusion, right, and get back to our original constitutional position, that is to be the servant of Krishna, right? That is called liberation, right? So although we think that we are free, but we should not be fooled by it, because in fact, we are all serving the illusory energy of Krishna, and we are all serving lust and all of our desires, right? All of us are bound by that. But out of our foolishness, we think that we are the masters, right? That is the ultimate illusion. And this has been very beautifully highlighted in the entire Bhagavad Gita, and essentially is the root cause of all of our problems. As we have discussed sometimes, this is like the original sin, because we were all envious of Krishna. We have given up the service of Krishna, and instead of that, we are engaged in serving Maya, right? Or the external potency of Krishna. Now, someone might question that, why do we have to serve the external energy of Krishna, right? And the answer is very simple, because we are simply incapable of being the masters. We have to be the servants. Either we serve Krishna or we serve Maya. Only Krishna can be the master, because he is the original source and he is the supreme person. as he says, Maya Dhakshena Prakriti Suyate Sa Characharam Hetu Nanena Kaunteya Jagad Viparivartate. Right? Under his leadership, Maya Dhakshena Prakriti, right? Under his leadership, we see the Maya Shakti, the external potency of Krishna, is acting in this material world, and she is keeping us engaged very nicely in our day-to-day activities. And we are thinking that we are the ones who are running the show, right? But instead, it's all happening under the supreme control of Krishna through his agency or his external energy, which is Maya Devi, right? So he is the only one who can wield that control. There is no one else has the capacity to be the master. It's the fact. It's just the constitutional position, right? That's who we are. And even for us to sort of live in this illusion that we are masters, Krishna has to engage his external energy so that we can serve him. We can serve that external energy, really, right? So by serving that external energy, and that is why it is called Maya. It is called Maya because it gives us the illusion that we are the masters, although we are serving that illusory energy of Krishna, right? And this is not so difficult for us to understand. I mean, if you think about it, we might think that we may have some minute control, but there are so many things that are beyond our control, right? I mean, if you look at the situation today, right, in the times of pandemic, last year, who would have thought this situation would arise, right? And just in one moment, the situation came, the virus came, right? The pandemic happened, right? And so many things changed drastically around so many people. Some of us are fortunate who have not really been impacted in a big way, but there are many, many people who have been impacted in a very, very bad way, right? And up until last year, they were thinking they were in complete control. The life was going really good, right? They were all engaged in their day-to-day activities. Everything was looking good. And then suddenly, everything changed, right? So this is the situation in this material world. None of us, even the richest person in this world, cannot say that he's in complete control, right? We have had so many examples wherein, someone was the richest person and then they are always taken over by someone else, right? They have to struggle really, really hard to sustain their position of power and strength, right? Just now we had the elections in the US, right? There was a president, and now because the voters decided something else, right? The president has to go away and someone else has to come, right? So even the president of a country cannot stay there permanently, right? Even he is not in control. He may think, or people may think that he is a supreme controller, at least within a country, he has the supreme influence. But that influence is also limited, right? So one must always understand, and especially devotees understand this very clearly, that where is this coming from, right? What is actually happening? And from our day-to-day lives, we should try and learn and sort of try to relate each and everything that is happening in our lives with what has been described such beautifully by Krishna, right? So we can very easily relate to this. In our day-to-day lives, we may think there could be a certain situation for a certain time span when we might foolishly think that we are the controllers. Everything is happening according to what we want. But we should not be fooled by that situation, because those situations are always temporary, right? And there will always be a time when the things could just change and it will be beyond our control. No matter how hard we may try, but the situation will definitely change and we will simply be left to adjust according to the situation, right? And even that, we are dependent upon the capacities and the propensities and the abilities that have been provided to us by Krishna. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjun trishtati. Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani maya. So it's Krishna who is actually situated in our heart and is essentially guiding us, right? If Krishna does not provide us the abilities and the propensities, whatever abilities we have, they are all coming from Krishna. We should never forget that, right? So because we have those abilities and they have been provided to us by Krishna, and because we are the superior energy of Krishna, right? Therefore, we have been provided some minute independence. We should never misuse that minute independence that has been provided to us. And we should not think that because we have that minute independence, that we are the supreme controllers, because nothing could be further from the truth, right? As Prabhupada is explaining really, really nicely here. And in a way, that is the very root cause of why we are stuck in this material world, right? Because we want to enjoy this material world and we want to be the controllers. As soon as this propensity to be the controllers goes away, right, we can immediately turn our attention towards serving Krishna. And Prabhupada is also pointing here the last snare, as he calls it, is that the proposition that he is God, right? And we see this happening with many impersonalists, right? And that's what Prabhupada is referring to here, right? So a person, he may be a karmi, he may have no understanding of spirituality, but gradually when a person gets some knowledge of spirituality, he may not directly come into the devotional service of Krishna, right? Usually we see people are more attracted towards impersonalist philosophy, and they think that I am God. There is no difference between me and God. Suham. They do not really understand the true context of Suham, right? They think that I am God, but that is simply an illusion, as Prabhupada is pointing here. And in fact, that is the last snare of Maya. And that is why we see people so easily attracted to impersonalist philosophy, because it makes it easy for them to sort of call themselves God, right? That is what the proposal is, that I am the same as God, so I am God, right? But as we understand from philosophy that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us, Achinta Bheda Bhed, that although we do have some similarity with Krishna, with the Supreme Person, but at the same time, we are also different from the Supreme Person, right? So we just like a drop that is separated from an ocean, right? It also has a salty taste into it. It is also salty, and the ocean water is also salty. But it does not mean that a drop is the same as the ocean. They are two very, very different things. A drop is a very, very minute fraction of that supreme vast ocean. And the existence of that drop is dependent upon that ocean, right? That is the key point, that our existence is completely dependent upon Krishna, the Supreme Person. And therefore, we are completely different in that sense. Although we may be same, since we are part and parcels of the Krishna, in that sense we can be the same. But at the same time, we are also different, and we should therefore not try to become or try to foolishly think that we are God, because that is the, as Prabhupada is pointing here, that is really the last snare of Maya. And one can overcome that, how? Only by engaging oneself in the devotional service, right? So by engaging in devotional service, we can very easily understand how Krishna is the Supreme Person, how we are his part and parcels, and how the ultimate happiness, because that is what all of us are hankering for, right? How the ultimate happiness lies in serving Krishna, right? And by engaging ourselves in the devotional service of Krishna, we can very easily, gradually, with a gradual, as time goes by, and once we are sincerely engaged in the devotional service, the process is such, it has been designed in such a way that eventually this illusory energy of Krishna will not impact us to that extent. Although even then we have to be careful, no matter, whenever we are in this material world, as soon as we become a little careless, right? As soon as we become a little bit careless, as we see in the case of, we have past time, the case of Bharat Maharaj, right? Although he was at such an elevated stage, but because of his attachment for a deer, right, he fell from that spiritual platform. Although Krishna made sure that he is able to start where he left off, right? Krishna is very, very merciful. And that is, again, where we are different. The devotional service is so beautiful that we are always dependent upon the mercy of the devotees, the Vaishnavas, and of the Supreme Person, God. That is why the example is sometimes given between a devotee and an impersonalist, right, who is trying to achieve perfection on his own strength, right? So the example is that of a monkey and that of a cat and a kitten, right? So just like a cat, she's holding the kitten in the mouth, right? So even though the cat may jump from one place to the other, but because a cat is strong, the kitten can be secured because he is not dependent on his own strength, but it is dependent upon the strength of the cat, which is an adult, and she knows what she's doing, right? Whereas in the case of a monkey, it's the monkey child who is holding the monkey, right? So it could be that when the monkey jumps from one building to the other, because the baby monkey is weak, right, and he's depending on his own strength, he can fall down. And that is the difference between the devotees who are always dependent upon the mercy of Krishna and the mercy of the devotees, essentially, right? Because because he is dependent on them, the chances of falling down are not there actually. As Krishna says, he is always there to protect. Name bhaktya pranishati, as he tells in Bhagavad Gita. Kaunteya prati janehi name bhaktya pranishati. So he actually promises that my devotee never perishes, right? So we always have the protection of the Supreme Lord. Whereas in the case of impersonalists who are trying, or jnanis, right, who are trying to strive for perfection by their own strength, there is always a chance of them falling down, right? Therefore, ultimately, everyone has to attain to the platform of devotional service, right? No matter at what stage of spirituality a person may be, but the final platform of perfection is rendering devotional service unto the Supreme Person, unto Krishna. So we'll move on to the next portion of the purport. The word moha is very important in this verse. Moha refers to that which is opposed to knowledge. Actually, real knowledge is the understanding that every living being is eternally a servitor of the Lord. But instead of thinking oneself in that position, the living entity thinks that he is not a servant, that he is the master of this material world, for he wants to lord it over the material nature. That is his illusion. This illusion can be overcome by the mercy of the Lord or by the mercy of a pure devotee. When that illusion is over, one agrees to act in Krishna consciousness, right? So here Prabhupada is highlighting the word moha, right, which refers to, which is opposed to knowledge, right? So moha essentially means something that is totally opposite of knowledge, which is away from the fact, right? And actually real knowledge is the understanding that every living being is eternally a servitor of Krishna, of the Lord. And how can this illusion be overcome? In the last line, Prabhupada is mentioning, by the mercy of the Lord or by the mercy of a pure devotee, right? And who is the foremost pure devotee? Is the spiritual master, right? So only by the mercy of the Lord and the spiritual master can a person be overcome from moha or illusion, right? And he could be situated in the absolute truth. Just like in this case, we see Arjuna, right? As he's saying, if we read the translation, that his illusion is now gone and he regained his memory by Krishna's mercy, right? Because he's depending upon the strength of Krishna. He is not depending upon his own arguments. You know, when Bhagavad Gita starts, we hear Krishna giving all kinds of arguments to justify his actions, right? But Krishna just flatly refutes all of them. He simply says, although it seems like you're speaking like a learned person, but actually you're talking rubbish. Whatever you're saying is actually completely beyond knowledge. It's not knowledge at all. It's all foolishness, right? So sometimes, you know, we may foolishly think that what I'm doing is correct, but we are all, you know, jivatmas, right? And we are always in illusion, right? So there is no way for us. Sometimes there could not be a way for us to ensure that what we are thinking is actually correct. And that's where the role of the pure, especially of a pure devotee of Krishna in the form of a spiritual master, comes into play. Because we currently do not have a direct connection with Krishna since we are impure. We have to depend especially upon the mercy of spiritual master, right? So spiritual master comes to our rescue in that situation. He dispels all of our illusions and he shows us the path. And one has to be very sincere in following the instructions that we receive from the spiritual master, because that will eventually what will lead us to knowledge. Krishna consciousness is acting according to Krishna's order. A conditioned soul, illusioned by the external energy of matter, does not know that the Supreme Lord is the master who is full of knowledge and who is the proprietor of everything. Whatever he desires, he can bestow upon his devotees. He is the friend of everyone, and he is specially inclined to his devotees. He is the controller of this material nature and of all living entities. He is also the controller of inexhaustible time, and he is full of all opulences and all potencies. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can even give himself to the devotee, right? So this is very important. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can even give himself to the devotee, right? So such is his mercy. This is one of the characteristics of Krishna. He is just so supremely merciful that he does not hesitate to give even himself to the devotee, right? As Prabhupada is mentioning here. One who does not know him is under the spell of illusion. He does not become a devotee, but a servitor of Maya. Arjun, however, after hearing Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, became free from all illusion. He could understand that Krishna was not only his friend, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he understood Krishna factually. So to study Bhagavad Gita is to understand Krishna factually. When a person is in full knowledge, he naturally surrenders to Krishna. When Arjun understood that it was Krishna's plan to reduce the unnecessary increase of population, he agreed to fight according to Krishna's desire. He again took up his weapons, his arrows and bow, to fight under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here, Prabhupada is sort of enlightening us by telling us the impact or the result of sincerely and attentively hearing Bhagavad Gita. Just like it happened with Arjuna, right? A person who sincerely understands and appreciates and accepts Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide representative, the result is that he can factually understand Krishna, right? And a person who can factually understand Krishna, he would naturally surrender to Krishna, right? And when a person naturally surrenders to Krishna, he would understand Krishna's desires and will act accordingly. And therefore he can attain to the Supreme Person or his constitutional position, right? So this is the ultimate cure of the disease, right? As we discussed a little while ago about the original sin or the root cause of our sufferings, is this understanding that we are not the servants of Krishna, but we are the masters, or we are the lords, or we are God ourselves, right? So that is the disease. And for us to be able to cure of this disease, we have to understand Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide representative of Krishna, and we have to hear attentively, right? And when we do that, just like it happened with Arjun, right? Eventually all of the sickness, all of this propensity to be the controller will die out by the fact that we would understand Krishna factually. And what is Krishna factually? Krishna is the Supreme Person. He is the Supreme Controller, right? And our position is that of a servant of Krishna, right? And when we understand that, eventually by that understanding itself, the purification happens and the false ego translates into the true ego, right? So false ego is the false or the misplaced identity of self that we currently have, right? And that misplaced identity can then be replaced by the true identity that we are the servants of Krishna. And Prabhupada also here is highlighting what kind of a servant, what does it really mean to be the servant of Krishna, right? And what kind of a master Krishna is. So usually in this world we see that a master is really out there to exploit the servant. That is a very common sort of an observance that we see in this material world, right? That the servants get exploited by the masters, and therefore this word servant, sometimes it's very much unpalatable by general people, right? It doesn't sound like a very good proposition to be a servant of anyone, right? That's because our understanding of servant is based on our experience in this material world, wherein everyone is trying to exploit everyone else, right? But in the case of Krishna, it's just totally opposite. In the case of Krishna, he is a master who actually likes to serve, right? Just like we are seeing in this case, he decided to take the position of a driver of Arjun, right? He's the chariot driver for Arjun. Arjun is the fighter, right? And he sort of, it seems like he's instructing Krishna, oh Krishna, let's go from here to there, right? So he's moving him from one place to the other, right? A driver is nothing but a servant, right? So this is the kind of master that Krishna is. He in fact enjoys the entire pleasure that he gets is by serving his own devotees. Just like devotees get pleasure in serving Krishna, right? So it's a mutual give and take loving relationship, right? So the term master here is just to indicate that Krishna is the one who is controlling everything. But as we discussed last time, that control that Krishna has to exert is because no one else can do that. Only Krishna can, right? For him, for us to be able to enjoy a certain kind of a situation needs to be facilitated, right? An environment needs to be created. So that could only be done by Krishna, right? So in that sense, because he is controlling it, he's facilitating. That is why he's considered to be the master, right? But what he really does is he is also serving the devotees, just like the devotees are serving Krishna. Krishna is also serving the devotees, and to the extent as Prabhupada is pointing here, that he is in fact very much ready to give himself to the devotees, right? So who would not like to serve a master like that? Who always thinks of the pleasure of his devotees first, right? So Krishna is such a master. Therefore, we should give up all kinds of hesitations and take up to Krishna consciousness very, very sincerely, right? By all of the various methods, by all of the instructions that have been provided to us by the devotees, by our acharyas, by the means of all of the scriptures that we have at our disposal, whether it be Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. There are endless books that have been given to us by Srila Prabhupada, right? And not just that we should engage in study of and serving in the capacity of Krishna consciousness within the society, but we should try to distribute this knowledge as widely as possible and try to get more and more people attracted, or try to get more and more people associated with this movement, with Krishna consciousness. Yare dekha tare kaha Krishna upadesh, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, right? Wherever we find anyone, we should try and give this message of Krishna consciousness. Of course, we have to be careful that we do not give this message to someone who is envious of Krishna, but it does not mean that we should not go out and preach, right? We should still, because sometimes you never know who might be attracted, right? So we should in fact distribute it freely, and then eventually people who are not envious of Krishna might be attached, might get attracted towards it, and gradually they can be developed into the devotees of Krishna, right? I remember there was a friend of mine when I was in college. We just sort of was introduced to Krishna consciousness at that point. And this friend of mine, we were in the same class, and in my wildest dream, I could never imagine him to be a Krishna conscious person. I mean, he used to abuse all the time. He used to sort of, there are all kinds of people, right? Some people really enjoy to bully others, right? He had that kind of a character. He used to use very foul language. He used to always bully everyone else. So, I mean, in my imagination, he was probably the last one who I could have imagined to take up to Krishna consciousness. And when, we had devotees coming from the temple and they used to give Bhagavad Gita discourses, I started attending it. And during one of the discussions, I told him that we have this weekly programs. There are devotees who come from there. And I was just casually mentioning it. And he said he started asking me about the timings, when do they come? And then the next time I see, he actually attended a session. And after that, he just started attending every week. I was like, what's going on? I could never have imagined this guy to be able to appreciate Bhagavad Gita. And since then, he just totally changed. And he took up to Krishna consciousness very seriously. And today he is initiated in chanting 16 routes and very nicely settled in his life and practicing Krishna consciousness very sincerely in Delhi. Right? So we never know, who will be attracted to it, even though externally, a person may seem to be doing all kinds of nonsensical things. But this Krishna consciousness is always there in everyone's heart, right? We have tons and tons of what is called dirt that is basically collected onto us, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, right? Cheto Darpan Marjanam, right? So this process of chanting and hearing is really the cleansing of the heart. It's not that it sort of creates Krishna consciousness, comes from somewhere else and it is induced in a person's heart. It is always there in everyone, in all living entities. We always have Krishna consciousness in us. But when we come and listen to these discourses, when we come in contact with the devotees, that Cheto Darpan Marjanam, that process takes place and this can be reignited, right? So I actually saw that happening. That kind of reignited him and he just immediately took up to it, right? So we should always try, because, no matter who a person is, there is always a potential for him or her to take up to Krishna consciousness, right? There are innumerable souls in this material world who in fact are waiting for them to receive this teaching, these teachings of Bhagavad Gita. And, Prabhupada has done the greatest service to the mankind. I have firm conviction about this. And there is nothing else that convinces me more than this fact that Prabhupada actually did the greatest service in this age for the mankind by bringing Krishna consciousness to the entire world, right? Otherwise, we could have never imagined to be able to discuss Bhagavad Gita and practice Krishna consciousness so far away from India, right? But he made it practical practically available to everyone, no matter where a person is, right? So this is a special mercy that has been facilitated to us by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through Prabhupada, right? And we should take the full advantage of it to the best of our capacity. Although all of us are always busy with the material life, that's the way material life acts. That's the way this illusion acts, right? But we should always try to find some time, as much as we could, to engage ourselves in practicing Krishna consciousness by so many different activities that have been given to us in ISKCON as per the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, right? So with that, I would like to thank you all for listening so patiently and nicely. And if you have any questions or comments, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much. Very nice class. And I wanted to apologize about the initial confusion about the verse number. I think I gave you the wrong verse number. Sorry about that.
That's that's totally fine, Prabhuji. No problem.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, I just would like to share one comment. So I believe this whole Bhagavad Gita speaking time is, I believe, 90 minutes, right? 90 minutes, 70 minutes. I heard sometimes 70, 90.
Mm-hmm.
So I think whatever that time is, 70 or 90 minutes, Arjuna's illusion is gone.
Mm-hmm.
So 90 minutes is like a short time, right?
Yeah.
And I think in one of the Bhagavad Gita lectures, I think Malati Priya Mataji was actually sharing one of the YouTube video of Srila Prabhupada.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where Srila Prabhupada said it will take just 1 minute.
Yes.
So I can see how the mercy of Srila Prabhupada is bringing that time from 90 minutes to 1 minute.
Yeah. So
amazing. Right. I think that's real mercy for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji,
for sharing that, Prabhuji. I remember seeing that video, and I have seen that tens of times. That particular video is just so attractive, especially the way Prabhupada says it, right? You can look at his eyes and see that he's 100% convinced. He is not making it up. When he says 1 minute, he says it twice actually. 1 minute.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Twice. And by his body language, you can see that he's 100% convinced, as if power is speaking through him. So it is, in fact, this is a total fact that Prabhupada has made it so easy and convenient for us, right? And we all, no matter how hard we try, we can never repay that debt that we have. The only way that we could do something is by following the instructions that he gave to us.
What was the question somebody asked? Did they say, how long does it take to surrender? And he said 1 minute. I forget now in the video.
Yes, Mataji. Yes, someone asked him how much time would it take for us to become Krishna conscious and to attain perfection in Krishna consciousness. I think that's what the question was, and Prabhupada, in response to that, he said 1 minute.
Thank you.
So can somebody forward me that YouTube? I haven't seen it, so I don't even know what the reference is. So can somebody send me a link to that so that I can see it?
Yeah.
Please.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure,
Nice class, Prabhu.
Thank you.
So
Mataji.
what was the personal example you gave of some person who became a devotee overnight? What was that? I missed that a little bit of that.
So when I was in college, I was pursuing my engineering in India at that time, right? And there was a friend of mine. His name was Laveen. Today he's an initiated devotee. I forget his initiated name, but we were close friends, and we used to do all kinds of nonsensical things, that happens in a college that age and time. At that time, both of us were not introduced to Krishna consciousness, and I was the first one who got introduced, because we used to have devotees who would come from the temple, right? And I just got attracted to it, and I could never have imagined. I mean, the way he was, I could not have imagined. It was very difficult for me to think that he would become a devotee. But once I was just casually mentioning, and he seemed to be interested. So I just saw that he started coming to those weekly classes, and he just got attracted to it and immediately took it up. And in fact, he once told me that this is what I was looking for. And before I was introduced to Krishna consciousness, the way we used to interact with each other and the way he was, it would have been very difficult for me to imagine that this person can become Krishna conscious. You know, he used to do so many things. That was just crazy. So that's
Oh.
what I'm mentioning. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. That personal stories are always inspiring, you know, of transformation. Then we feel there's hope for us, you know, when you see.
Mataji, yes, absolutely. I mean, the process itself is so pure. And that's what I learned from it, right? From that personal example, what I learned was, you know, we should never think that this person, you know, especially, for example, when we distribute books, you know, sometimes we think, you know, maybe this person won't really be receptive. Although I don't have a lot of personal experience of distributing books myself, as I'm always very much hesitant to do it, but the limited experience that I've had, you never know, you know, who, some of the people who you can never think that they would be receptive to Krishna consciousness. You know, they just take it up immediately, right? Because the process is just so pure, and there is always this Krishna consciousness is there in all of us, right? It's just a matter of you know, who ignites it, at what point it gets ignited.
Yeah, yeah. And Mother Jiva was once telling me, you can never judge from what point in your previous life are you starting. So you can never judge one person and think that. The case in point is Bilma Mangal Thakur. You know, he had that Chintamani, the prostitute, and whole thing. And people think, how did he become such a great Vaishnava Acharya from being what he was? But that was because I had heard a lecture from, I think, Sachinandan Maharaj. I'm not sure, one of the Maharajas. I don't know which Maharaj. That is because in a previous lifetime, they're in such a point, and that's more like a lesson for us, that lesson of transformation, you know. Because
Right.
you'd think then he'd poke his eyes and he'd be blind, and then Krishna would personally come to listen to his music rendition, you know, his poetry and his writings, you know, and whatever he wrote. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had that one book in his hand when he went. He had the two books. One was, I think, the Brahma Samhita, and the other one was his book. I forget the name. I think Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, not Charitamrita, Chandramrita, I think. Whatever that other book that Bilwa Mangal Thakur wrote, that was a famous book, and that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to always carry with him. It was his favorite thing. So that Maharaj was saying, I don't remember which Maharaj, I think it is Sachinandan Maharaj, but I'm not sure, so I don't want to misquote. But he was in a lecture saying that because from a previous lifetime, he's a great Acharya to begin with. So whatever happened in the beginning of his life is just like a preview for other people to learn from, and that transformation, you know. So you can never think that someone like that is going to be a great Acharya and a Thakur, you know, not even an ordinary devotee.
Yeah.
So that's why we should never judge. That was the Mother Jiva was also saying one time, that you should never judge who is who, because you never know where they have left off in their previous life, and they're just ignited, and they're totally, like you were saying, your friend. Maybe he carried it from a previous lifetime, and that's why he was able to take to it so easily, that the rest of us are struggling, you know, that we have to struggle to get where they are going, you know. So
Yes, Mataji.
okay. Yes, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for sharing that. Okay, so I think it's 8:01. Thank you all so much for listening. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Sarvescha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
and Koti
Takoti
Vaishnava.
Vaishnava ki.
Hare Krishna.
Very
Hare
nice
Krishna.
class, Uncle Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Ankur Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Haribol.